real man who lived?
From the evidence, when you actually go into where Geoffrey got these accounts from, he spoke Welsh, and he said that he got them from Welsh manuscripts. You actually find that there's other characters that fit the same attributes that Bladud had very, very well. But also there's other characters within Geoffrey of Monmouth's text which also have almost exactly the same attributes, have the similar name, fathers and sons and wives. And so in a sense you could say it was a fabrication, but also you could say that it was kind of an artistic rendering,
Yeah.
to be kind. So very much he was taking core elements from older mythology and trying to integrate them into this kind of narrative which he'd kind of made up to a large part. I mean, the majority of these kings which he mentions, there's hundreds of them, the majority of them have never been found, and there's no trace to any other king. So obviously either he was a fantastically good writer, or in the future we'll find out that there's more to maybe some of the other kings that he was talking about than we at first thought.
Right. So,
but sorry.
Oh no, I just wanted to say that if we talked about Bladud there again, he was, as a consequence because of his leprosy, then he was thrown out of the kingdom or a specific city.
Yeah, he was, as I said, he was a Welsh prince, so he came back to this Welsh kingdom, which kind of was meant to be in the sort of the centre of Wales, on the high beacons there, known as the Brecon Beacons and Black Mountains. So yeah, he was put into exile, and as was custom in older times, if you were somebody of authority or wealth or status, and you were sent into exile, they would often give you a flock of animals to take with you, because you could use them for trading, and you could eat them, and you could also have company. So it would give you maybe a year or two in your life, walking around with these animals. So yeah, that's what happened with Bladud. He was sent into exile with this group of pigs. So he walks down out of Wales, sort of comes over the border of the now border of England and Wales, and he's walking down the Cotswolds, which is the hills which kind of would lead on from the Black Mountains. And he comes down, and as he's coming over one of the hills, sees this valley absolutely full with steam, all rising up out of it. Very much kind of a fairy tale kind of image. All of this incredible hot water and bubbling out of the ground, and steam just engulfing this whole valley. And the tale goes that he'd been walking for a long time, and so he thought he'd go to be refreshed by the spring. So he goes down, and his pigs that he's got with him they had actually supposedly contracted the leprosy from him whilst they were with him. So it's, we know that that's not actually possible today, but the myth was a part of it.
Yeah.
And so these pigs roll in the mud in this kind of little valley basin, and the next day he notices that they've been cured of the leprosy. So he goes back to the same place, back to this steam-engulfed valley, and rolls around in the mud and kind of bathes in the waters, and actually cures himself. So at that point he goes back to Wales and claims his kingdom, and in kind of memory and thanks of being healed, he builds the first settlement in Bath, which they call Caer Badon, which means the meadows of bathing. So that's kind of the whole story of Bladud that we get from Monmouth, and about 12 other authors that have built on Monmouth's tale over the years. And as I said, this is very much the accepted founding of the city. People kind of don't really want to delve any further because they think that this Bladud character is, that's old enough. You don't need to go back any further than that. But yeah, I was just going to say what I found was was speaking to some of the curators of the museums of the Roman bath
Mm.
and some of these other places, is when you do talk about this figure, that they like to romanticize him, but they don't really want to go into any of the details about him, because he was a character which it seems was created by this Romanized Catholic historian, who very much kind of emulates the whole idea of the early Christian church, was that all of the civilization, all of the wealth, all of the intelligence, the administration and agriculture, all of this came from the east. And so we have this in the tale, obviously, this Welsh prince goes to Athens.
Mm.
You know, he doesn't go to Ireland or Bangor in North Wales, where we know that there was a Druidic college. He goes to Athens, apparently. But again, yeah, the locals in the area and all of the kind of the specialists on this subject, or the Bathonians, the people that really are into the whole history of Bath, they very much like to cling to this image because he kind of idealizes this almost Saxonized Christian pagan king.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not really very much Druidic material that's discernible. And it seems like he took his ideologies and philosophies from Greece anyway, you know, so he's very much a Hellenized kind of figure.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, there's actually a festival going on at the moment, and a big kind of event all around Bath. If you walk around it, you'll see these big metal pigs everywhere. And they're meant to be blooded pigs and the whole thing, you know, and hundreds of these things. And so, yeah, it's very funny for me, right at the point when I'm talking about this, they've actually got a celebration of Bladdard and his pigs,
Right,
these big
right.
metal pigs all around the city. But this really emphasises the point that they really want to cling to this, even though they know, as I said at the beginning, that the archaeological remains that have been found, you know, push it way back, you know, to sort of 6, 7, 8,000 BC, at least.
That's interesting. So, I mean, the image here might be a composite in a way, you know, different kings or characters throughout history, or even when you know, some people, you know, rediscovered the site or even took over it, they might have wanted to create a new kind of a deity, if you will, around this that people can think back to in regards to the founding of the city. But I mean, there's a few interesting things like some of the sketches of Bladdard. He's depicted with wings, for instance. That's pretty interesting, right? Yeah,
that comes from some of the later kind of Middle Ages and Victorian historians. Kind of they transmuted the story in later times to, you know, that Bladdard was a man of magic who came to the area and created the springs magically with his powers of sorcery, you know.
Yeah.
And then they later say that he built himself wings so that he could fly, and that he actually threw himself off the top of a temple and died. But yeah, this was very much the latest transmutation. So they're connecting him with kind of this alchemical Solomon figure, almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was the latest transmutation of the story, the last kind of 400 years of it. But yeah, that's the picture that they leave you with. You know, obviously it's on Wikipedia.
Of course, yeah.
And if you do search on Bladdard, you'll find this image. And yeah, he's standing very much in a kind of alchemical circle, or a sort of Goetian circle or something. You know?
Yeah.
There's nothing Celtic going on there, I can say.
So, do you think that all the Celtic and Druidic connections to the site and so forth have been suppressed, written out of history, as it were, and you know, they don't want to recognize the more ancient connection here? Yeah,
I think that's precisely what it is. I mean, this is a theme all over Britain, even though lots of documentaries and lots of material is coming out about the Celts. The historians, the actual guys that are doing all of the research and a lot of time making the new documentaries for Horizon and all these kind of BBC and National Geographic things, they very much come at it from the same point. They want to degrade the image of these people, or put them over as illiterate people, you know, who needed somebody else to tell them what to do. Yeah, I mean, so it's a theme that we see all over Britain and also all around the rest of the world.
Of course.
Absolutely everywhere that's been colonised has that same motif. And so you have the modern scholars through the educational committees and all these kind of things. Just keep that story going through. You know, wherever you are, you'll find that same thing. And so it's not surprising at all to find it here.
So what can we say more about the wealth and even Irish Celtic Druidic connection to the site? Is there much more information here about this?
Oh yeah, there really is. There was a Welsh linguist, a guy called Owain Tatman, and he quite rightly understood that as Geoffrey of Monmouth lived on the border of Wales and spoke Welsh, and took the translation from Welsh tales, that Bladud is actually a Welsh name, and so it should be pronounced in a Welsh fashion. And when you do pronounce it, it actually becomes Bladud. So it's kind of a B apostrophe before the rest of the word. And the B kind of be in Welsh the word for near and young, or old and far, are almost exactly the same. So the B apostrophe Ludud would actually be the young Luddud, or young Lud, or near Lud.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this was one of the first primary crossovers where I could see that there was another king that Geoffrey of Monmouth spoke of between sort of 400 to 800 years later, who was called King Lud. And this character seems to have had huge fame all over Britain, because, I mean, we can find there's 68 different places around Britain with Lud at the beginning. But all in all, because there's lots of repetition of names, there's about 300, 400 different towns with Lud at the beginning. So, you know, you can see that whether it was something to do with this King Lud, or whether there was something much older to do with this word that had a lot of meaning throughout Britain, you can't really say, but it's kind of one interesting connection which I found kind of gave context and background for this king, Lud, because this is the actual account that we have of it, is that he and his brothers are actually kind of knocking back an invading force from Britain and have retaken the crown. And so this king and his brothers are going all over the British Isles and taking it back for kind of the Britons.
And Lud, I just wanted to say Lud, of course, also is that's the another Sun King, basically, isn't it? Lud?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the last mutation of it. I mean, through these word roots, you can track Lud to a Welsh character called Llydd, which is, you know, it looks exactly the same in a written form, but there's two L's at the beginning and two D's at the end. So it's the same character, and a lot of historians and linguists and others have all very much focused on this and seen that they were the same character. They have the same attributes and they have the same kind of upbringing and the same sons. And so if you take it back even further, you know, again, you know, what you're quite rightly referencing, you know, which nobody else seems to have picked up on, which is strange, is that Llydd is actually taken from a much older Irish source. As you say, he's the sun god, or what's known or remembered as kind of the sun god figure, Lugh.
Of course, yeah.
And the connection is made even stronger by the fact that Llydd is known in Wales as Llydd Llaw Eraint, which means Llydd of the silver hand. And